Welcome to Leafs Talk. I'm Sam McKee. Joining me tonight, and listen, I didn't even get to go on the left side of the box tonight. Like, I was excited. My boy JD Bunkus is gone, and Anthony Petrielli from Maple Leaf Hot Stove, Leafs Notebook every Monday, does great work for them. He gets the left spot still. I'm still on the right side of the screen. Great to see you tonight, buddy. Appreciate it. Joining on Leafs Talk tonight. Really exciting, thrilling game for you to make your season debut on. Bit of a slog tonight, fella. Bit of a slog.
I felt it coming in. I was like, they've won 7 of 8. Washington just lost to San Jose in overtime.
Yeah.
The last time they played them, Carberry had one of the funniest post-game press conferences, followed by
he was sour.
And then do you remember the day after? He basically said, usually I try not to talk too much about the game because I want to watch it on tape first to make sure. But I knew it was bad. And then I watched it again and it was actually worse than I had described it.
So I think you told me that your wife is away watching Taylor Swift tonight in Vancouver. Who had more fun tonight? You watching that game or your wife?
Her flight was delayed 4 hours yesterday to get there.
Oh God.
And I'm texting her while she's at the airport just saying it's not even worth it. I don't even know why you're going. And now after what we just witnessed tonight, maybe she had more fun than I'm gonna have.
All right. So I think the first place to start here is I think the Leafs were, they weren't themselves tonight. That's for sure. But I don't think you can take away from how well the Caps played tonight. I think when you mentioned Carberry and him losing his mind after that last game, multiple embarrassing drops, didn't recognize, they were talking about a little bit on the broadcast. They were an inspired group tonight. That's a team that's won 8 in a row on the road now, team record. I think maybe now the best team in the league by points percentage. I think they might have hopped ahead of Minnesota tonight with that win. We will talk about the Leafs and we will kind of, break down what was wrong with them. But that was a really, really good defensive, heavy road effort from the Caps tonight. I was impressed by them.
They actually played the way Craig Berube wants the Leafs to play.
It was like the Leafs playing themselves tonight. It really felt like that.
I mean, they pucks in deep. They just grinded. They forechecked, and the Leafs couldn't break out tonight. That was, I know officiating is going to end up being the highlight, and I know we already joked about ref talk and I don't want to let them off the hook. I mean, they didn't get the puck out tonight. Yeah. The large stretches of that game were just spent in the Leafs zone, and all the offense felt one and done pretty much all night. Once they finally got in there, someone would throw a shot on net or whatever the case is, and then it'd be over. And then it'd be back into the Leafs zone for an extended period of time. So, Washington outplayed them. Washington didn't deserve to win the way that they did, but they did deserve to win the game.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Like, it's a pretty even 5-on-5 game in terms of, I think, shots. Like, I think they were in the offensive zone a lot more than the Leafs were, but when it came down to shots, when it came down to scoring chances at 5-on-5, it felt like it was pretty even. They had the power play, the extra shots. I don't know how many power plays did they end up with tonight. Was it 4 power plays did they end up with?
So technically it's credited 4-2, but it was really 3-1 because they called the penalty when Marner sold it. I mean, I'll take it.
A little bit of a dive, no question.
I have no issues with a little sportsmanship. I mean, we've been begging the Leafs to have sportsmanship for 10 years, and the best part of sportsmanship is really, can you dive and get a power play out of it? And he did it. So.
I mean, you think about the chances that they had tonight, and they at the end of the game there, they had a flurry. The goal that they get is a broken play where Tavares leaks out. Tanev makes a great pass, and he ends up scoring on a beautiful goal. But they really did get shut down by the Caps tonight. Like, I felt not quite playoff gamey in terms of the way that the Caps shut down the middle of the ice, but this, felt familiar in the lack of getting into the middle. Like, I don't know how many slot shots they ended up with tonight. It really didn't feel like they had a ton of, chances in the middle of the ice between the hash marks at all. Yeah. And I keep going back to, I think the Caps just really, really leaned on them, and they didn't have the guts to break through it tonight. Like, there's been other games where they've been able to break through it, and they've been able to kind of, like, even the Nashville game they just played where it's 1-0 going into the third period and they end up breaking out, but that's obviously a crappy team. Tonight, they just didn't have it in them to break through what the Caps were doing. It was a total slog in the offensive zone for the Leafs and in the defensive zone. And the Caps just felt big, and the Leafs didn't feel like they could rise to that.
Yeah, and so shot attempts, the Leafs kind of closed it towards the end. Obviously, they made a push after they were, but by and large, throughout that game, it was 60-40 Caps.
Yeah.
I know the shots were a little bit closer, and that's a little bit the way the Leafs have been playing in terms of they've been preventing chances and they've been doing a good job of boxing out, but territorially it's been too much time in their own end.
Mm-hmm.
I think they know that. I think most people know that watching them. And by and large, it's been, they've been missing a ton of guys, half their forward group.
Yeah.
And it's really like, who cares in that process? But, Matthews is back now. You have your top line coming back. Like, it's not, they mentioned Pacioretty might be coming back tomorrow. Hopefully that's the case. It's coming back pretty quickly here. And with that needs to come back their play where they're actually carrying and dictating what's happening, especially on home ice.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, they've been so good on home ice. And, I'm just looking at the ice times there while you were talking. And, they've played some over this stretch of good play where they've been missing guys. And, for them to miss all these guys and have the schedule the way it was when they played like 3 times in a month, it felt like there in November, to have all those guys be hurt, it was really good timing. And even when they started picking back up, this competition's been pretty soft here, right?
Yeah.
And tonight is a night where you felt the bottom 6 and you felt that they were not the same caliber of a bottom 6. Like you look at the bottom half of the Caps lineup, it's big guys. It's, Lars Eller's out there. It's just veteran, bigger guys to me. And I have to say that tonight was the first time where I was like, yeah, they really need to get these guys back where they can finally start to get a bottom 6 where they actually feel like they have, if they're playing stiffer competition and they're going into Pittsburgh tomorrow night. I mean, they've been a little hotter recently, but I think they'll be able to handle that. But going into some tougher games, they're going to need to get their guys back because it really did feel it tonight that it was some AHLers against NHL competition in the bottom half of the lineup.
I mean, in fairness, the bottom 6 for the Leafs isn't small. I mean, Duer's small and Robertson's small, but everyone else is 6'2 plus. They're just not that good.
Yeah, there's big guys in the AHL too, I guess.
Yeah. There's size there. They just you're right. I mean, the fourth line was a non-starter for the game. They didn't contribute at all.
Play? What did Gurbankin end up playing tonight? And Reeves. Yeah, I guess Reeves played 852. Gurbankin was 722. It's like, they're truly not going to those guys at all. So
935 for Robertson, and he was basically done. I know the penalty gets highlighted, and I get it, but that cross check happens.
Oh yeah.
15, 20 times. I mean, they didn't call it when Chychrun did it against Matthews. In the third period, there was a very innocuous play around the Leafs blue line where Philip Myers did the exact same thing. Yeah. And everyone was like, if you're Robertson, it's just, that was tough. But on the flip side, right before that, he gets what should have been a 2-on-1 and he passes it before the blue line, which is a cardinal sin. Like if you're in the NHL, you cannot pass the puck right there.
Yeah.
That is not NHL hockey. Like you have to gain the blue line. It's just, or you pass it at center. Like you cannot pass it a foot and a half before the blue line. And that's bad. Like that's why he's there. It's to capitalize and be that one shot kind of scoring guy. Cause it's not anything else that he's doing on the ice. So when you get your one golden chance and you can't even gain the blue line, I mean, there's not much to talk about.
I don't know how much you listen to Leafs talk. I don't know how much you consume of the stuff that I talk about.
I know he's your favorite player on the team.
I just, at this point, I once in a while send out a little tweet just to, pick at it. I did tonight, but it is what it is. I mean, how many games left does he have with the Leafs here?
The bottom 6 was tough tonight
but you look at who's coming back, right? Yeah. They mentioned Pacioretty's possibly back tomorrow, possibly Domi starting next week. They're starting to get these guys back. And it's like, well, there starts to be numbers of guys that can come into the lineup and spots in the lineup. And you'd have to say that, I don't think they're going to take Reeves out, which we can have a conversation about taking Reeves out of the lineup. I mean, it just feels like that guy is kind of going to be there. They have him. He's on that's a different conversation. So Grabankin's going to be coming out for sure because he plays 8 minutes a night. He's waiver eligible. Say that 5 times fast. So he's going to be coming out of the lineup. And then the next one, it's like, well, it's Nick Robertson. Like, it's just, it is. Like, Dewar's been good on the penalty kill. Holmberg is playing like in the top 6. Those are really the only other 2 options. And it's going to be him. And like, if everybody's healthy, where does he find his way back into this? It's his days are numbered. And tonight was just really a culmination of the way the season's gone for him. Like, tonight, in a season of a lot of questionable games for Nick Robertson, tonight was probably his worst, which is saying something.
Yeah. And we'll get to the goal against in a second, but just to kind of rewind almost a week, he scores what was honestly, it was a great goal against Tampa. It was a snipe. That's what he can bring to the table. And then you look at the schedule and it's like you have Chicago and you have Nashville and you're playing with Fraser Minton, who has a little bit of momentum going, but you're 2 young guys. And can you step up in that role? And obviously the week has gone the way that it's gone. We're 3 games after that goal now, and not enough has really happened. So it's like, you look back a week and you kind of hope, okay, he finally got the monkey off his back. He let out the loudest yell.
Oh my God.
Anyone will let out for a goal in November. In
Soshnikov-esque. We were talking about the one night Soshnikov-esque where he screamed at the top of his lungs. He was extremely excited. He was very happy.
That was bordering on Yakupov sliding down the ice in terms of
that was so
like levels of celebration. And then you go and it's just donuts against Chicago and Nashville, 2 worst teams in the league. And then tonight was what it was. So that's tough. And then you get to the first goal tonight. And it's an interesting one because most teams, pretty much every team really will say first forward back is the center. And you could kind of see the wave that he was trying to give Minton on the view. And I really just watched that. This is also why teams don't play 2 young guys together, because they just don't know what they're doing in the NHL. And there's confusion on both of their ends, and you could kind of tell Robertson skating in as if he's center, and then he's like, okay, I guess I'm playing wing, and then he doesn't get the board out.
It doesn't seal the boards. It goes out and then ends up in the back of your net right away.
And so he plays a role in that too, obviously, but Fraser Minton does as well. That you have 2 young guys playing together, and that's off. Good teams don't do that. Good teams, and I don't think the Leafs would either. They just what are their options right now given the injuries at hand, right? Whereas, not that I want to revisit the entire like Keefe era, but he would just put 2 young guys together when they were fully healthy for no reason, and it would look like that. They're doing it out of necessity right now, and against good teams, you're going to get burned. Like that line was just they were bad tonight.
Yeah, they're hemmed a lot.
And then you look at it, and I'd say for the course of the overall game, I'd ask you, like, who was good tonight on the Leafs? Who would you say had a good game tonight?
I thought Stolarz made some good saves.
Yeah, I mean, their goalie was good. Their goalie was good. Yeah, but
my boy Tanev's good every night.
He was the one player I was going to say was good. Like he's really good. Like the pass was so good to Tavares.
Yeah.
He just the PK was excellent. Like that was probably the only good team thing that they had going tonight. And if you think about it, it's like McCabe's missing and he's PK1 and Kampf's missing. And if he's not PK1, he's their 3rd best PKer. And in recent years, if the Leafs were missing a PK1 defenseman and either a PK1 forward or borderline top PK2 forward, you might as well not even like, you might as well just call the game right there. Like they would just get turnstiled.
I will say that this is one of the reasons, like, you know, there's been a lot of talk about if this year actually, you know, I saw JD had Brian Boyle on his show a couple weeks ago, and Brian Boyle was like, yeah, this actually feels a little bit different. And like, this could be a year. And like, you know, we're Leaf fans, we say this could be the year. That's literally like, we should have that on a t-shirt. But what I'll say is that one of the main reasons I feel more confident about this team is that they legit have an excellent penalty kill. Like, I don't know what it's up to in the league. Like, I keep looking at it's like 8th somehow, but I feel like it should be first. I feel like they never get scored on. Really, listen, having Chris Tanev and good goalies has taken it from a bottom half of the league unit to a top half of the league unit. Like that really has made a massive difference. And you mentioned McCabe and Tanev on it are excellent, but they have good penalty kill personnel, which, and a lot of them which tells you about like some of the guys that are missing, right? Like all the guys that they have are all sort of penalty kill type of guys. Like Marner does it clearly, and Matthews has been doing it a little bit here and there, which I still don't love, but it's been a really, really good unit. It's really good again tonight. That part of it actually does have me feeling a little bit different about this season, just how good the penalty kill is, because how many times in the playoffs has there just been a big power play goal? They haven't been able to get a kill, and that's just killed them. It just feels like that happens all the time. So I've loved the kill, and they were good again tonight. It was impressive.
You can survive a bad power play in the playoffs if your penalty kill
100%
is excellent. And then conversely, it was just disappointing to me that they only got one power play in the game. And I don't know if this will eventually bleed into ref talk, but I really more so want to focus on the power play itself.
Yeah.
Because the power play was excellent. They did everything but score.
Mm-hmm.
And the 5-forward look to me is worth continuing to pursue. It slots everyone in the right area.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what happened early on prior to Matthews getting injured is guys just weren't in the right area. Like that's a great example. You have John Tavares in the bumper, Marner up top makes a good pass right away. Like that's an unreal pass.
Yeah. Beautiful.
And Nyes is in front causing damage. And they were like, everyone's in the right area when it's like this. I mean, Tavares is good in front, but I think Nyes is better. And I think Tavares is easily their best player in the bumper spot. Matthews just kind of floats around there when he gets to that spot. So I saw this first power play. It was awesome. And they, again, everything but score. And then we just never saw them again. And that was...
It feels like if they get one here on this power play and then they really start getting rolling, that could have changed the game big time. They get the first goal and they had so many chances on it. But you're right. I mean, it's stylistically and the old school in me. I do hate it. I shouldn't say hate it.
Hate that it's 5 forwards.
But it rubs me the wrong way. Like it offends my sensibilities. I'll say that. It's like, I watch the Caps and they're rolling out Chychrun and Carlson on their top unit, right? And I'm like giving me flashbacks of McCabe and Caberlet the way it used to be when I was a kid. And maybe I'm just an old guy now and it offends me a little bit. They have 5 forwards out there. But the thing for me with the 5 forwards, having Marner there is by far the best spot for him. Because him on the half wall, him taking one-timers, him like below the net, none of that stuff fits what he does on a power play. Having him at the top, making that first pass, making reads, like you mentioned with the pass he made to Tavares, that's where you want him. So this is the best way they can do it. And but game 1 of the playoffs, you can have a 5-forward power play unit. I guess it'd be really scary.
How do you feel about Marner on the point defensively? And we're talking, it's just power play here. It's not 5-on-5, obviously, because he did play some 5-on-5 defense last year. I'm not saying he's a D-man.
Thing that ever happened. Why did that happen?
There's a million things we could go back to in the previous era. You're just like,
absurd thing that
I can't believe that was a real thing that we observed.
I know.
So that was tough. But I will say, if someone's coming down on Marner defensively, including Connor McDavid on a 2-on-1 in overtime, like I don't cringe as I would for most forwards. I'm not sitting there watching thinking, oh my God, this is
you're right. Tough. He has the ability to like make a play defensively on a 2-on-1 or like lift a guy's stick or catch somebody in a foot race. You're right. He's not the worst option, but he's still a forward, bud. And it's still just a little rubs me the wrong way a little bit.
I don't think he'll be Daniel Alfredson getting torched by Jason Pominville in overtime. I don't think he's that level. So it just, like I said, they didn't get enough opportunity, unfortunately, but I was hoping to kind of watch a few more. That power play excited me. They haven't really had power plays in general.
It's funny because we talked about this before the show started, and me and Bunkis have created a monster because for the first 2 years of this show, I would be like, I literally hate talking about the ref.
I know it's tough.
I hate talking about the refs. But then we say it so much that it became like it like memed itself. And now ref talk has gotten completely out of control. Like the brand of ref talk, I think actually may be stronger than the brand of Leafs talk. Like I think we should just do refs talk. That's all people want is refs talk. I get 100 DMs. Refs talk tonight. Ref talk. I'm like, can we just talk about the Leaf game? God.
How many of those times is it Francis Chiron as the ref too?
When you're recognizing them and knowing the names, that's when it's like, oh, this guy tonight. Like him. Yeah. Wes McCauley, clearly with the Keith stuff, has been a buckaboo of Leaf fans forever. But Sharon is one of the guys that really sticks out. And they were brutal tonight. They're flat out brutal. Like both ways. They were horrendous both ways. Like it just
that Ekman Larson slash was just,
and the high stick. I mean, he kind of got him, but did he get him on the high stick?
The slash is just not. It's just not the NHL. I'm sorry. Like that's not NHL. Chikrin had already lost the puck. I don't know if the ref thought that it was the stick that did it, but that's just, it's not the NHL past American Thanksgiving. I'll tell you that for sure. And by that, I mean, usually the first month of the season is a little bit, one, free flowing offensively, 100%. And two, the refs come out and lose their minds a little bit to start every season.
They're all horned up. They just want to make every call.
And then it gets toned down because they realize, and tonight they're, we talked about the cross check, that's not a penalty. And then the one on Holmberg, that is a penalty.
Yep.
Obviously, like you can't clamp down and then take the stick out of a guy's hands. And then obviously they score right after.
Him putting his hands in the air. Like, like it's he's like, what am I doing? He slashed his feet. It was obvious. That was the only right call tonight. And, and then of course, I know the refs got to move, but like, where do you think he's going with that puck? Like everyone's like, oh, it's an unlucky bounce. That's a brutal read by the ref. It is.
Yeah, it is. And you don't jump. And
no, the guy's turning around to go around the way. Like if you're watching on YouTube, like where is he going with this? Like it's an awful read, and people are like, "Oh, it's just a weird bounce. It's unlucky." It's not unlucky. Stay on the boards there, so he has a lane to go around you. You're involved in the game. It's a 1-1 game in the end of the period. Get out of the way. Like I'm not gonna say that's unlucky. You're out there. You're part of the game. That's like what your point of your game is, to stay out of the way. And he took a brutal route on that puck, and he just goes right in the way of a clear, and it bounces out in front of the net. Like, where are you going?
You can kind of see it on this view, but if you watch Matthews and he stares at him, and then he kind of takes a few strides towards him after, which is a little bit rare for Matthews. He's not one to usually do that. And McMichael's celebrating insanely hard for getting a gift. I know he's in his hometown, but
that was a full windmill off a ref bounce.
Yeah,
really did. I was like, oh, okay, we're going there.
Yeah,
okay.
I was like, you probably have 50 people in the stands, so you're.
He spent 80 grand on tickets. He's
Ajax's finest, and they celebrated. So good for him on that. But it was, that one's particularly tough just because the Leafs should have been on the power play.
Yep.
Which made it just compounded things. And the Berube 2 was probably the only exciting thing when he's looking at the ref counting 2. That might have been the most exciting Leaf moment for most of the game.
So let me ask you this stylistically. And Blitzer, we got in our chat here. He's like, would love to know the thoughts on Berube's system clearly affecting Leafs offensive generation. And like, that's a great question, but it's boring. They're playing a lot more boring hockey, and the results have been there. And if they were winning, they're first in the Atlantic or close to first in the Atlantic. I'm not sure what happened with maybe it flipped again because Florida won the other night. They lost tonight, the Leafs, but they're right there. They've been playing great with nobody in the lineup, all this stuff. We understand everything, but when they lose, you're like, oh my God, that was brutal. It was boring. But when they win, it's like, oh, they're so defensively sound and impatient. You can't have it both ways, but it's just like, remember odd man rushes? Like, remember that when that used to happen in Leaf games? There's just never an odd man rush. Either way, it feels like
it was the Mike Babcock line of it's dumb, but it's fun.
Yes.
Right. And so really what I think is happening with Craig Berube, I don't think obviously he's not trying to neuter them offensively, but what he is saying is there's a way that we need to play defensively, and you need to learn how to create offense within prioritizing that defensive structure.
Yeah.
And when it goes well, meaning the games where they forecheck well, if you look at the win against Winnipeg, the first game against Tampa, like they were just blitzing those teams off the forecheck, 100%. Creating a bunch of turnovers, and they scored. And then a night like tonight, it was they couldn't get a turnover off a forecheck. Washington was breaking out cleanly. The Leafs were not breaking out cleanly at all, like at all. Philip Myers had a really tough one tonight with Morgan Riley. He couldn't even complete a D-to-D pass. And there were a few where Riley was kind of looking at him going, what? Like,
He's like, bring Luke. He's like, bring Luke Shen home to me, please.
Yeah,
he's like, bring home my D partner.
Bring home Luke for
That's
sure. That's a story in and of itself. I think we were all thinking that.
Yeah.
And so the league is here right now where every team is dumping the puck in a ton. Right? Florida's successful with it. Carolina's successful with it. I think pretty much every team in the league is trying to play like Carolina, to be honest with you, because most teams are sitting there going, we're probably not going to be able to replicate how tough Florida is.
Yeah.
But we can replicate Carolina, who probably doesn't have any actual superstars, but is consistently very good. And so I like that he's trying to force them to play this way and say, like, you should be good enough to create offense within the zone. But, night like tonight, and this has to go to the top guys too. It's like, what did Matthews do off the forecheck today?
Yeah.
If you actually watch the play where he gets cross-checked by Chychrun, the puck goes into the corner after, and he pulls out of the battle, which is, it's a battle. It's not even like Washington had the puck yet. He just kind of pulled out for no reason.
He's still not right. He's not close to 100%.
Probably not.
He's not.
Probably not.
No.
So he pulls out, and then Marner, who was kind of in the slot, kind of looks and goes, I guess I'll skate into the corner. Yeah. And now you have 6 foot, maybe 180 plus pound Marner. He's like, okay, I'll sub out for you in the corner of this battle. So I think when we look at their offense, it's going to be a work in progress. And then obviously all the injuries that occurred. And then this is what happens. Like, the nice thing is that they won when Matthews came back. So we didn't have to hear any silly talk about, are they better without Matthews or anything like that.
Were you listening to Real Kipper and Born, or
yeah? So they are not better without Matthews. So that it quieted that down, but now we're hitting the reality of like the roster's back, and it usually takes a little bit of time to work within it. And they're not controlling play territorially at all right now.
No.
And they need to get back to that. They were doing a really good job of that, I thought, early, like the first 10 games when Matthews was in the lineup or whatever it was. Like, they were a top 10 possession team in the league. It was coming. And now the injuries derailed it. And now they're kind of getting outplayed, and it's snowballing. And they're good enough to make up for it on most nights against the Chicagos and Nashvilles of the world. Yeah. But like, the process has to get back here.
Yeah. It's funny. You always talk about teams that let guys go. And, you talk about Ottawa and the struggles that they've had. Man, that Chychrun, I'm like, that would seem like a mistake. Like, maybe they should have picked someone else to get rid of, because he was incredibly noticeable tonight, and he was snapping it around, involved in everything. And you're like, well, I mean, Ottawa, that's the guy they picked to get rid of. Like, it was surprising to me watching him play how good he looked.
And the price was minimal.
Yeah, was it a Jensen? Was
Nick
it Jensen
and a 3rd round pick, I believe. So that it's not a high price. I mean, he was a guy we circled last year at the deadline. I was like, this is a needle moving defenseman. He has 8 goals already.
Yeah. He's really good.
4 times Nick Robertson. And so he just catches a stray. That was unnecessary. He did not need to catch that stray. But he has a bomb, and he could play both sides if you really need him to. Although I think he's clearly a left-handed defenseman, and he can skate, and he's strong. And I like Chychrun a lot. He's a pending UFA. He's a good player, and obviously then to circle back to Tanev, like, he was another guy that we had talked about a lot last year, and I think he's kind of come in just as we thought, like, perfect fit.
I'm impressed, man. I've loved them forever. You know me, I've been pining for him on the Leafs. Me and Bunk did a pod after they got Lyubushkin. I literally cried for 25 minutes that they didn't get Chris Tanev. I was like the most sour. Bunk still makes fun of me to this day about it. But Tanev has been as advertised. And like, I think in the last 3 or 4 games, maybe going back to the Tampa game where he actually gets a goal and an assist, he's shown like a little offensive upside here. Like, he's like, this pass he's made, he's been snapping it around a little bit. He dove deep in the zone a couple times tonight. Like, he is a total grunt, and that's what you love about him. Like, all he thinks about is shot block, stop cycle, retrieve pucks, going back on pucks. Like, that is what he thinks about. But he does have a little touch to him that when he needs to, like, he had a couple good shots towards the net tonight early when the third line had their only good shift of the game. He snapped a couple on net. Like, he does have a good enough brain where he can make an offensive play, but God, his defensive work, watching TJ Brody go back on pucks for 2 years here.
Just getting run off pucks in the playoffs.
He was good for the first 2 years of contract here, but like it fell off a cliff. And watching Tanev go back on pucks on the right side of the ice versus watching TJ Brody off his wrong hand with a broom ball stick go back on pucks, it's like they're playing a different sport. It's amazing.
He was the only defenseman that could make a crispy breakout pass tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. No one else could do anything. And Myers was not good tonight. And that's a guy that they clearly like because he's been a good pro and he's been sitting out forever. But the drop off from having him in the lineup to Jake McCabe in the lineup, that has been noticeable for these 3 games without McCabe. McCabe is a big hole in this Leafs decor.
McCabe, you could argue, as much as we're giving Tanev rightful credit that he deserves. I mean, it's between those two, I think, as to who their best defenseman all around is.
Yeah.
And McCabe hasn't produced a lick offensively so far this season, but I still believe that he can, and he does have a bomb.
Yeah.
So it's really, it's those 2 guys together, and it, obviously it hurts, but at the same time, it's like Washington's missing Ovechkin.
Yep.
And the other thing I want to actually mention about Washington, because I thought it was a quiet storyline in it just because the Leafs didn't do enough offensively, but Ryan Lindgren is like
is it Ryan or Charlie?
Or Charlie Lindgren, sorry. But
Ryan's the guy who plays for the Rangers, right?
Yeah,
2 Lindgrens. They brothers.
Charlie Lindgren is like a road hockey goalie.
Yeah, he's flying around.
And he's a southpaw.
Yeah.
And
both their goalies are lefties.
And you look at it, which is wild, by the way. That's
very
unheard of. And I honestly felt on a number of chances the Leafs got, it actually, like the breakaway Nylander had, it completely threw him off. Mm-hmm. Even that chance in front by Tavares, which part of me was like, would the ref have called that a goal if it went in? Because he had knocked off Fehervary's helmet right before. I don't know. But I just, he's so weird stylistically. I almost felt like it, if you watch baseball and you go up against a knuckleballer and you're like, this is like almost like a weird trick shot that like gets me off my game. That's what it felt like with Lindgren. They had a few looks where, the Nylander breakaway, it was like he got tripped out by I think almost.
That Nylander breakaway was a centimeter from a really filthy goal.
Oh yeah.
Because it's like that against the grain going back across the body backhand is a rare one. You don't see that a whole lot. And he tried to do it and he did not miss by much. Also on this breakaway, I love that the ref did the NBA move on the first one where he didn't put his arm up until the goal didn't go in. So it was like when a guy goes up and goes for like a layup, and if it goes in, the ref doesn't call it, but if he misses, you'll blow the whistle. That's what happened on that breakaway. I love that. That was actually the only good thing I noticed about a ref tonight.
To me, that was a penalty shot though.
No. I completely disagree. I am against
full breakaway.
No, they were shoulder to shoulder when they got the puck. I think.
What do you mean? It was a clear breakaway.
I think that
right there, that's a breakaway at the blue line.
No. You have to be 3 steps ahead of a guy and like get pulled down from behind for me to even consider.
So you're just anti-penalty shot then. I'm pro penalty shot. I want penalty shots.
No, I don't. I don't. I think if you're gonna get a penalty shot, you have to be like 2 full steps ahead. Guy hauls you down. They have to commit like a 1991 hooking for me to give a penalty shot.
You are the Francis Chiron
yes.
penalty shots. Like,
yes.
Unless the Leaf was getting murdered, the Leafs were not getting a second power play.
No, they
tonight.
were not. They really weren't.
It just wasn't happening. But to me, like as someone who wants to see the league call more of them, because it is a rule and thing, it's like it's a breakaway from the blue line and he gets obstructed, and by definition, that's a penalty shot. Yeah,
to the letter of the extremely soft 2024 rule, that is a penalty shot. But like to me, I was totally fine with that not being a penalty shot.
They call it goaltender interference for less.
Yeah.
On
you know what? But if I'm a ref, like that moment, like that's like there's you get into reffing because it's you like to be seen and
I'm crossing my arms.
You think you're Mr. Big Shot. You think you're Mr. Authority. Getting a point to center ice when a guy's getting hauled down, everybody goes nuts at home. Just do it. No one's gonna question it. Just do it, man. Call it.
they're cheering for you.
Yeah,
Francis,
it's the only moment that they like you. Just do it. Go for it.
That could have been it. But that breakaway to me was a good example of the southpaw where that would normally go blocker, right? Yeah. But instead it was glove.
Yeah.
And then the second one, you could kind of see him thinking about it. And he was like, all right, I'm going to try to go 5-hole now because
it's really
he
weird.
has the glove.
Shooting
and then
wrong-handed goalie. It really is weird.
Lindgren closes the 5-hole, which was smart. And then so he tried the flip play. But that I don't think that was his intention going in. I think he was sitting there going, I'm going 5-hole. Like the exact goal that he scored against Utah. But because Lindgren put the paddle, he made the right read, and he looks super casual doing it because he's Willie. But it was the right read. It just it didn't play out. But I think that the first breakaway, not blocker, like all that went into it, just kind of that's the trippiness sometimes of playing a southpaw.
That was like that was almost a backhand Datsuk. That was like very close to like a flutter puck backhand Datsuk. It was very close. Anyways, last thing for me, and this is a very rare occasion for me, but it's a junior hockey moment tonight. And like, I rarely would do this, but I actually think this is the most filthy goal that's ever been scored by Beckett Seneke. He's a pick for the
Anaheim
Ducks, right? Watch this goal again. This is against my most hated franchise in all of sports, the London Knights. So maybe that's why I wanted to show it. But this is actually, I think, the nicest goal I've ever seen. Watch this move that this kid makes. And then bar down, that doesn't even touch the net, and the goalie doesn't think it goes in. A little junior hockey corner on Leafs Talk, but look at this move. How do you even think to do that? That's filthy, man. What a goal.
Sammy was just sitting there going, this Leaf game was so bad. What happened in the OHL tonight?
Listen, I always got my ear to the ground in the OHL. But this is an unbelievable goal.
I do hope
this is one of the best I've ever seen.
From this game, I do hope Easton Cowan's also okay.
Oh, he got rocked.
He got clean hit. He got
and Ben Danford threw his weight around too. He hammered somebody in that game too.
And scored.
Electric OHL corner here on Leafs Talk tonight.
That was a big game. So hoping that we see.
Yeah, that's right. He didn't get invited to World Juniors.
Ben Danford.
No, the Seneke kid didn't, or Seneca or whatever it is. He didn't get invited either, which is crazy.
Yeah, I mean, Ben Danford, you would have hoped, but it was 9 points in 21 games as a righty. Seneke didn't make sense. I didn't understand a number of their selections, to be honest with that word. Like, I don't understand.
I don't watch enough. I don't watch enough. Like I'm a junior hockey guy. I keep an eye on my beloved attack, but like, I don't pour over the tape. So I'm not like the biggest junior hockey guy anymore. Like,
even if you just watched even if you just watched the Mem Cup last year, which I'm sure you kept an eye on.
Did, of course. Yes.
Like Perek didn't get the original call. Yeah. Like now he
just got called up. Yeah.
Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
You know, that's like the opposite Team Canada. That'd be like Canada picking Dylan Strome over some of these other guys that they ended up picking. And right, because he's at a hot start.
He got snubbed off the all snub team too on Sportsnet, and sort of John Tavares got snubbed off the all snub team too.
Why was Strome a snub? Did you notice him tonight?
No, I meant like on the snub, because my boy on Sportsnet yesterday, or on Real Kipper and Born, I brought up because they did like the Team Canada B, and then I brought it up on TV, and they put up the board, and then I was like, shame on whoever made this. They didn't put John Tavares on it. Shame on them. And like the second the mic went off, I looked at Borny. I was like, that was too much, wasn't it? Like, oh yeah. He's like, that was way too much. But then I found out tonight it was my boy David Amber that did it, and he loved that I was mad at him. So it was perfect. It all turned out fine. My guilty conscience is bad, but like, I do think, John Tavares scored, and this is the last thing I'll say because we should go. We've been rambling on forever here. But like, I do think the John Tavares talk has swung too far the other way, because definitely like he's been a bit of a punching bag in this market. The captaincy gets it stripped. People don't think he's lived up to whatever. And people have been critical of him, but he scores tonight. He's been close to a point per game this season. Like, I think he's almost swung over to the other side of underappreciated now. Like, I feel like it's gone too far the other way.
I'll say a few, as a Team Canada fan, I'm not heartbroken that him nor Chris Tanev are on.
He shouldn't be on Team Canada. There's no way. We have just too many guys.
As a Leaf fan, I'm thrilled that John Tavares and Chris Tanev aren't on the team.
Yes. I'm already terrified enough about the at least three best players going to play in a meaningless tournament halfway through the season when they've looked the best they have in this era.
Give them the break. I mean, Tavares had like 11-game pointless streak last year in January, and then he came back from the All-Star break sort of rejuvenated and looked really good. Now he's going to get the 2-week break, and that's going to be perfect. And Tanev, probably his entire body's bruised at all times. So
my man needs to go sit on the beach in Cabo for a week and just relax. Where there's no pucks can hit him.
Yeah, if you watch, for those that watch the NFL, the Steve Smith ice up,
yes,
ice up
absolutely.
For a couple of weeks and you're good. So I think it's I actually think that the tournament's going to benefit the Leafs in a number of ways. I think you're going to have, Marner's going to get to play with Sid and McKinnon and McDavid in critical games. And I think that's going to be important for him.
Yeah.
It's one thing to like mess around with those guys at the All-Star game. It's another to be around them when it's for keeps. And those guys are going to play for keeps. I think same with Matthews, and like these guys have won nothing. Yeah. So one of them's going to win. Nylander, Matthews, Marner,
or Yanni
Hakanpää. Yes. So a Leaf is winning.
Yeah.
And you would hope that they learn something from it, and then they can bring it back, which wouldn't be unheard of for international hockey.
Who knows? I don't know. They'll both find a way to choke somehow, Matthews and Marner. Anyways, that's enough for tonight. Anthony, from Maple Leaf Hot Stove, really appreciate you taking the time on a Friday night. Kind of a boring game, but you're never boring, buddy. I had a blast. Follow him at A Petrielli on Twitter. Me, Sam A. McKee. Go and find us. Bunk does a better job of this. I'm not a host. I'm just a mutt that sits here. So thanks everybody who listened. Subscribe, watch on YouTube, do all that fun stuff. Have a great Friday night. Thanks, guys.